Hello, I'm Rachel and you're watching Kalkine TV live from Sydney. This is the Economic Corner show where we update you on all the biggest global economic announcements. First up on the show is an update coming in from China. Amid China's growing rivalry with the US, Chinese lawmakers are making progress on legislation to retaliate for foreign sanctions. The official Shinwa News Agency reported late on Monday that the National People's Congress Committee filed the second draft of legislation aimed at countering sanctions imposed by foreign governments. Shinwa didn't give details but said the legislation would provide legal backing for countering discriminatory measures by any foreign country in accordance with the law. The move shows China is following through with a March vow to expand its legal toolkit as it battles the US on a range of fronts, from allegations of human rights abuses in the western Xinjiang region to limitations on the types of technology China can import. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi used an address in March to warn US President Joe Biden not to meddle in China's affairs and called on the US to end penalties on Chinese firms. The National People's Congress's 175-member standing committee is meeting until Thursday in Beijing, and there are reports that it expects the draft law to be put up for a vote soon. Moving on now to the latest news on the G7 minimum global tax deal. Japanese Finance Minister Taro Aso praised the G7 minimum global tax deal, adding that it has raised the momentum for a wider deal among the G20 major economies. He said that the group of 7 advanced countries have struck a historic agreement for a minimum global corporate tax of at least 15%. On Monday, Switzerland's finance minister says the country will likely remain attractive to businesses after the group of 7 nations reached a landmark deal to back a minimum global corporate tax rate of 15%. It's time for a short break now. I'll be right back with some interesting news updates on Jeff Bezos.
Crypto talk by Kalkine. The crypto market has been red hot given the Bitcoin rally since the past year. And now the most famous cryptocurrency has got competitors, Dogecoin and Ethereum. If the crypto market excites you, tune in with me, Sage, to know the latest developments about the existing digital currencies and the new ones that are joining the race. I'll help you understand the opportunities and the risks the crypto market has in store for you. For all the digital currency related developments, continue watching Crypto Talk by Kalkine.
Hello and welcome back. I'm Rachel. You're watching the Economic Corner. Let's look at this trending news on Amazon. Chief Jeff Bezos, he plans to become one of the first civilians in space next month. He says he'll be taking Blue Origin's first human flight just 2 weeks after stepping down as Amazon's chief executive. Jeff announced on Monday that he'll be riding to the edge of space on the New Shepard spacecraft scheduled for launch by Blue Origin on July the 20th. He'll be riding alongside his brother and the winner of a multi-million-dollar auction for the final seat. Bezos says in his Instagram post that ever since he was 5 years old, he has dreamed of traveling into space. Moving on from space now to another breakthrough in the world of medicine. We finally have the first new treatment for Alzheimer's disease. US regulators have approved a drug developed by Biogen despite a rancorous scientific debate over whether the medicine even works. The US Food and Drug Administration on Monday approved aduca-num-ab, an intravenous infusion that will cost $56,000 for a yearly course. Aduca-num-ab, which will be sold under the brand name Aduhelm, is the first Alzheimer's drug to be approved. The drug will help in slowing down progression of the disease. Roughly 35 million people suffer from the cognitive illness worldwide, and this breakthrough in the world of medicine is definitely good news. Moving on now. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison held a press conference along with the Minister for Home Affairs, Karen Andrews, the Commissioner of the Australian Federal Police, Reece Kershaw, and FBI legal attaché at the US Embassy, Anthony Russo. In the address to the press, the Prime Minister says that the Australian government, as part of a global operation, has struck a heavy blow against organised crime, not just in this country, but one that will echo around organised crimes across the world. The Prime Minister proudly called this as a watershed moment in Australian law enforcement history. He says that when he was elected, one of his first actions was to ensure that Alex Vella left the country. He was the head of one of the most notorious outlaw motorcycle gangs in the country and was cut off from Australia, and he's never returned. Ever since that time, that has set the tone of his government's approach to dealing with organised crime in this country. And now, before we take more updates on the press conference, it's time for another short break. I'll be right back with more updates on the economy on the other side of the break.
Crypto talk by Kalkine. The crypto market has been red hot given the Bitcoin rally since the past year. And now the most famous cryptocurrency has got competitors, Dogecoin and Ethereum. If the crypto market excites you, tune in with me, Sage, to know the latest developments about the existing digital currencies and the new ones that are joining the race. I'll help you understand the opportunities and the risks the crypto market has in store for you. For all the digital currency related developments, continue watching Crypto Talk by Kalkine.
This is Andy Liu broadcasting from Kalkine Media Studio in Australia, and I'll be hosting the new Kalkine Wellness Show. The half-hour show will cover topics from how wellness as a concept has become even more significant during COVID, to how becoming vegan may improve your health, and much more. We are excited to showcase our live streaming show to our audience of millions overseas and in Australia. Tune in to Kalkine TV and join me.
And welcome back to the Economic Corner. Before the break, we were discussing Prime Minister Scott Morrison's press conference. The Morrison government have set up the Anti-Gangs Task Force and have updated Australia's telecommunications legislation to ensure that the agencies can track and take down criminal networks. An extra $500 million was added to boost the Australian Federal Police's capabilities to detect, deter and disrupt terror threats and transnational crime. The government's 2020 cyber security strategy set down $90 million for the police to better protect Australians against cybercrime. They've also set up the AFP-led Centre to Counter Child Exploitation. In the most recent budget, the AFP was given more than $1 billion for a 7-year plan that will help them effectively tackle the risks that the community faces from organised crime, criminals and terrorists. Morrison says that the investments to back the law enforcement agencies, in particular the Australian Federal Police, has helped them take a leading role to spearhead this assault against organised crime. Operation Ironside has now charged hundreds of alleged offenders, seized millions of dollars in criminal proceeds, and removed weapons from the streets and saved lives. And it will continue to. It is an ongoing operation. The operation puts Australia at the forefront of this fight against dangerous organised criminals who peddle in misery and ultimately will keep the Australians safer. Adding to Morrison's statements, the Minister of Home Affairs, Karen Andrews, says that Australia has world-leading policing capabilities. The Australian Federal Police has worked hand in glove with the US FBI to bring down some of the most significant criminals, not just here in Australia, but right around the world. Of around 9,000 officers that have been engaged in this operation across the world, over 4,500 of those officers come from Australia. Australian Federal Police Commissioner Reece Kershaw says that the AFP's Operation Ironside has allowed them to inflict maximum damage to serious organised crime, with devastating consequences to those who seek to do harm to Australians and Australia's interests. He further added that the criminals caught are members of outlaw motorcycle gangs, Australian mafia, Asian crime syndicates and serious and organised crime groups. They've been trafficking illicit drugs into Australia at an industrial scale. Sadly, criminal gangs are targeting Australia because it's one of the most profitable countries in the world to sell drugs. And for 3 years, this operation has been covert. Australian law enforcement has been arresting and charging alleged offenders and have prevented tons of drugs from coming on shore. Police arrested the alleged kingmakers behind these crimes, prevented mass shootings in suburbs and frustrated serious and organised crime by seizing their ill-gotten wealth. As of today, the police has charged 224 alleged offenders, including 525 charges laid, shut down 6 clandestine laboratories and acted on 21 threats to kill, including saving a family of 5. They've also seized 104 firearms and weapons and almost $45 million in cash. And these figures are likely to increase over the coming days. Collectively, these alleged offenders are facing jail terms that could run into hundreds of years, and some of the charges they're facing carry life imprisonment. Kershaw says that the Operation Ironside is just the beginning, and the AFP is living up to the maxim of keeping Australians safe. Now it's time for another short break. On the other side of the break, we'll be back with more economic updates for you.
At Kalkine TV, we'll take you to the heart of the Australian equity market. We'll bring you breakthrough stories that highlight volatility, as well as tailwinds building across the length and breadth of markets. Whether space travel will gain momentum, while economies may gradually open amid vaccine rollouts, our experts will share their timely inputs. So join us on this exciting journey of live streaming, financial and stock market news. Kalkine TV.
And welcome back to the Economic Corner. Here's an important update on the chip shortage news. One of the world's largest electronics contract manufacturers, Flex, has warned that the global chip shortage disrupting the car industry and threatening the supply of consumer technology products will last for at least another year. The forecast from Flex is a concerning one for a crisis that is forcing car and consumer electronics groups to re-examine their global supply chains. Singapore-based Flex has more than 100 sites in 30 countries and manufactures devices and electronics for companies. Its position in the supply chain makes it a large buyer of chips. Electronics manufacturers in Asia have also recently warned that the chip shortage was beginning to spread to TVs, smartphones and home appliances, with the situation made worse through stockpiling by Chinese groups hit by sanctions. Meanwhile, US officials say they've recovered $2.3 million worth of the ransom payment made to hackers who shut down the Colonial Pipeline last month. The shutdown disrupted the country's fuel supplies for several days. Justice Department officials say on Monday they had identified a virtual wallet used by a suspected Russia-based ransomware group called DarkSide, from which they seized the funds in a rare instance of ransom recovery. So a lot of good news on curbing crime from across the globe. That's all from me from the latest economic updates. Keep watching Kalkine TV for more live market news and updates. Stay tuned.